We go above and beyond with everything we do here, and that includes the inspections that we do. And be it a truck that's brand new or one that's coming back after rental, we go so thorough into it that I had to make 2 episodes to talk about that. This is the 2nd episode on that. Stay tuned. Thank you for tuning back in this week. I'm Josh with Premier Truck Sales and Rental. Really appreciate you stopping by. This week, we are talking about our inspection process. And as I mentioned in the intro, it's 2 episodes worth. We are beyond thorough with this. We are looking at everything that we possibly can to make sure that you don't have any problems when you're out on the road. Now, that being said, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's dive in with some of the front end components, such as the suspension. We'll have the cab jacked up and let's take a look at the engine and stuff around there while we're at it. We're gonna take a look at the leaf springs. We're gonna look at the bolts at both ends of those. Once again, we're gonna look at the U-bolts. We're gonna look at the tie rod ends and tie rod itself. Sometimes those tie rods get bent, give you a toe-in situation, which isn't good for tire wear, fuel mileage, or any one of a number of other items with that. We're also, once again, the whole theme of the way up the frame is making sure that every bolt that is going in, through, and around this frame is tight. And we're gonna make sure by looking at those once again, because the last thing that we wanna have is an issue with something vibrating loose. In addition, that front skid plate, sometimes someone may run over something that causes it to do its job as a skid plate, but it may deform that. So we're gonna take a look at that, make sure that's in good shape too. The continuation also of the theme with the bolts that I had from earlier is with the wiring harnesses. We're gonna watch these all the way through to make sure that we've got the sheath on it, that it's up in the right places, and especially in the cab pivot points on these. That is a point where wires move a lot. We wanna make sure that that's still in really, really good shape because we want you to get the longest life that you can out of these trucks. So while I've got the cab up, we're gonna talk about the engine next. So when it comes to underhood stuff, we're gonna take a top-down approach, and I think you'll be able to see why here in just a moment. Now, we've all seen one of these lying along the side of the road. So you guessed it, we're checking to make sure that this clamp is tight. Same thing with the snorkel up here, because the last thing that we want to have is this diffuser pointed the wrong direction. So we make sure that it's not only pointed in the right direction, but it's tight. We are gonna take and we're gonna go through the exhaust. We're gonna check the flex pipe, the insulation, all these items to make sure that they're still in really good shape. As we work our way down, there are the air intake hoses. We're gonna make sure that those are tight and those clamps are in good position. And when it comes to stuff like the belts, if there's even a small issue, we're going to replace it. We're going to take a look all the way down to the bottom of the engine to make sure that there's no leaks at the pan or anything like that. And once again, then we're going to go back a little bit because we're already underneath the truck before. We're going to make sure that all the coolant lines that go to the transmission are in good shape. We're not going to have any leaks, that all the clamps are tight. We're also going to make sure that there's no leaks at the transmission itself. We all know that maintenance is a key part of making sure that you get the longest life possible out of any component. So we actually write down the service intervals on this. So this, on the air cleaner, 15,000 miles or 450 hours, you know it needs replaced. We do the same thing on the oil and other filters on this truck. So that way, it makes it that much easier to keep up on maintenance. So now we're back to the body. It starts with stuff as simple as these spot welds, making sure that those are good on this axle so you know the arms are even. But we're gonna take a look at every hydraulic line on this. The same thing happens for any one of these side loader trucks or even a roll-off truck. We're going to inspect every hydraulic line. We're going to follow these lines all the way around to make sure that there's no issues. And typically, I know I've looked at the rubber lines here a lot, but we're also going to look at these metal lines. Any place that we can see them, we're going to take a look at them because these metal lines do move around a little bit in some cases. They need to have some flex to them. If they don't, they're going to break. And we want to make sure that we can spot any signs of breakage before that may happen. The other thing that we look at while we're here, we look at the height. We've found some trucks that have actually come through a little bit over height. So that's something that you shouldn't have to deal with. And in a lot of cases, you may not know it if you have a different truck. We want to make sure that everything that comes through here is at the legal height for you. On top of that, we're looking at those brushes while we're up there, and same thing when the can's down. We look at the brushes, everything like that, to make sure those are in good shape, so that way you contain the refuse, you're not spreading it as you're going down the road. So as we take just a few steps back, one of the things that I want to show you here is with the arms. And we're going to look all throughout these arms here. You can see there's these extra gussets and supports in here. We want to make sure those are all in good shape. We want to make sure that these metal guards that cover the hydraulic lines are in good shape too. Same thing, we're going to look at the hydraulic cylinders. We're also going to look at all these grease points to make sure that they've got grease there. They're lubricated, they aren't worn out, because there's nothing worse than something that bounces around because there's a sloppy fit here. On top of that, here's another hydraulic fitting. But the main reason why I wanted to come back to this spot was to talk about the welds. We're going to look at every single weld throughout the body of this truck, and that to me should tell you the extent that we dive into these. And when you look here, each one of these panels is welded together, and we're going to look at all of those for any chips, any cracking, any signs that something's having a failure. We're looking at these welds around the arm here to make sure, same thing, up over top here, down here at this bead. This whole bracket has a weld pretty much around the whole outside of it, as well as these plugs in here too. If there's an issue with any of these, we'll start to see it in that paint, and we'll see the bowing, or we'll see some displacement there. And that's something that will get taken care of for you. That should show you to the extent at which we take these inspections. We want to make sure that this is perfect for you. So I've worked my way all the way back up to the front here, which is great, and you may think we're done, but we're very much not, because we're going to take a look at the windshield seals and make sure that those are all good. And as I said, inside, we've pushed every button and switch and everything like that to test each and every one of these lights that you see here, along the side, and at the back. On top of it, we're even looking at these here, because these are what help stabilize the can in front of you. We want to make sure that these wear plates, well, they aren't worn out. On top of that, we're taking a look through here to make sure that there's no leaks or anything like that that we're going to run into an issue with. Windshield wipers, it's often overlooked. We're taking a look at those even too, because you never worry about them until it rains. By then, it's too late. In this video, I was just trying to show some of the depth that we go into with these trucks to make sure that you are getting the highest quality piece of equipment that you can. When I talk about checking each and every bolt and each and every hydraulic line and each and every hydraulic fitting, we do that. That's not just saying, we glance over it. We're concentrating on each one, looking at them all to make sure that you get the best product possible and the most reliable product possible. Because after all, you're renting or buying this truck so you can stay out on the road as long as possible. That being said, we've got some more great videos coming up. If you've got a question on this one or any of the trucks that we have here, by all means put that in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. As always, stay safe out there.